Maple syrup comes from maple trees. It's pretty easy to remember. But to identify a maple tree, it's kind of hard in the winter when we're tapping because there's no leaves. So this is kind of, you know, like that's a pretty easy leaf to see. But there's no leaves right now. So one of the biggest things is the branches. So maple trees are one of the 3 groups of plants that have opposite branching. So that means that their branches come out like our arms and legs do.
Okay.
They come out at the same point. And so will their leaves. They have the leaf scars right here where the buds come out. They're all right next to each other. So that's one way to identify. And then if you look way at the tops of the trees,
This big one here.
the really big one, you kind of see the branches look almost like they have little fuzzy things, or like there's something on them.
Okay.
Those are the buds. And in the
Ooh.
spring, maple trees are the first trees to get buds.
Ooh.
So when we're tapping and all the other trees are still dormant or just sleeping through the winter,
They are already.
they have their buds.
Wow.
And then once you've figured out it's a maple tree, before you tap it to get the sap, you have to think about the parts of the tree because that's important in order to get the sap.
So you got your bark right here,
Yeah.
which protects the tree. Then you got this thin layer here that's called the phloem, and that moves the nutrients down the tree. So right before winter hits, all the nutrients are going down into the roots to be stored. Okay. Then you got your cambium, which is a very thin layer, and that's going to put on your annual growth.
Okay.
And these dark rings here, like each, you got your light rings,
Yeah.
and then the dark portion is where the winter is. So that's 1 year.
1 year, yes.
So that's 1 year's growth. Then you got your xylem, which is all in here. And the xylem transports the nutrients back up the tree. And you want to get your spile, which is what you put into the tree to collect the sap. It's got a hole on the bottom. You want that facing down. Because when you're bringing all that sap back up, that's when you want to collect it because all the sugar is in the
Correct,
sap going up.
Yes.
And when it's coming back down, there's no sugar because it's all in the leaves and the buds.
Oh, yes.
Correct.
Then this hollowed out area would normally be the heartwood or deadwood because that's just like the base of the tree. It just keeps it there.
Right.
So when you tap too far, you leave an area for bugs to get into, and they hollow that tree out.
Oh, that's what is happening.
So that's actually what happened on this one. Now, as soon as you tap a hole into the tree is starting to repair it. So you can see this wood that it started to repair here.
Right.
And when your first tap will get your first sap that you'll get is usually about 3 to 4% in sugar maples, but it can be as high as 5 and 6%.
Okay.
Whereas if you get a silver or red maple, that's usually about 2 to 3%.
Okay.
And then you can even tap box elders, and box elders will give you about 1%.
Oh.
So when you're actually tapping, how do you make sure that you don't go through and through into the dead wood?
We typically say, because there's a certain size that there's a certain size maple, you don't tap till it's that big. It's typically 2.5 to 3 inches.
Yep.
That's a good. You're right in the middle of this block. You're in the middle of the sapwood, getting the good stuff. You're not too far in. And then there's a couple rules to tapping, but there's actually a tapping station here where they'll explain everything more in depth to you.
Sure.
And then just to throw those percentages into bigger numbers, if you have that 4 or 5%, the really good quality, there's a good high percentage of sugar, it'll take 40 gallons of sap that you collect out of the tree to make 1 gallon of syrup.
So a milk jug.
Right.
And
Oh,
then if you get down to the 2s and the 1s, it could take up to 80 gallons of sap to boil down to 1
1 gallon.
gallon
Okay.
of syrup. So you've really got to time it out right, and there's really no science behind it. It's just,
Just depends on the tree.
yep, it's just, you live and you learn. You just,
Experience.
yep, the experts can't even time it. perfectly. It's pretty much the month of March, but you want to try getting that first run because that's going to be your highest percentage. But if you tap too early, the tree might heal itself, and then when the sap runs, that part of the tree is healed, so you're not going to get any of the sap coming out. But if you go too late, you miss the first run. So it's really a science. It's hard to...
Weather dependent.
Weather
too.
dependent.
It's a
Right?
previously tapped tree. You kind of want to locate the tap holes. And then from there, if you've got a hole, you kind of go up or down 6 inches or right or left 6 inches. Kind of gives you a little bit more space from the other hole. Gives the tree a little, won't stress it as much. Also give you a little bit better flow. So once you find your spot, we can say maybe right here.
All
You
right.
take your drill.
So you got your drill.
Show you how to do that.
This is the old-fashioned drill. You can use the cordless drills. This is actually called a bit and brace. So this is the old-fashioned one because
Power drills are a lot more efficient. As
So
most
it's the
people-
But
same
they
thing.
use it?
Yes.
yeah,
that-
people will
it's not-
still
okay.
use
Still
these.
use
Yeah,
it, okay.
they'll probably have these as a backup, you know, in case their drill
Okay.
dies.
As you'll see, this
Nice.
takes a
So-
lot more time.
You want to put it in a tree like this. You want to get the drill straight. You want to angle it down a little bit, and that's so the sap comes out of the hole. It doesn't fill up or pool up in the hole. It can go right down. And then you want to drill a hole about 2.5 to 3 inches, no more, because I don't know if they talked about the
They
heart.
talk
Yes,
about the
correct,
heart
yes.
rate,
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we got the drill. Crank it in. We got some holes here already. This is one we just tapped in. This is called this is called the spile, and actually you can see it's dripping.
Oh wow, look at that.
Yeah, we didn't expect this tree to be flowing that much. What you do after you drill your hole, you take your this is called a spile. Take that, hammer that in. The water or the sap will start dripping out of there. This is our example one, but typically the ones we use around here, they look more like this. It's got a hook on the bottom.
You
Hook your
collect
bucket.
it in a bucket.
Yep, hook your bucket right there. We actually got this one today, and it's
Wow.
from a dead tree. That's
That's
pretty,
what I was gonna
pretty
say.
good.
Doesn't look like
Pretty
it's
good, right?
dead.
So in a day on a good tree, how many gallons do you get?
Okay, well that's actually a good question. The man over there, he actually does this with his family and his property. He said yesterday some trees gave him up to 7 gallons of sap.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's
a lot.
of sap.
Now, if you think about it, you have to. There's, say, if it's 1% sugar, which right now probably is only 1%, means you have to boil 99 gallons to get 1 gallon of sap. So you are boiling quite a bit off. So these are the things that people use mostly, but also people use bags too. And these bags, they just hook right on there, like that. They'll drip in here. And see, these are easier to carry for people that have a long way to walk or whatnot, but
a little more
squirrels get thirsty too. So they'll nibble on these little corners. And then they'll have a little nice little water fountain for them, the squirrels. So
But that does waste all your sap.
Tastes like flavored water. Doesn't taste like maple syrup, but obviously you have to boil the sap. It tastes like flavored water. Love it.
Tree, it's between 1 to 6% sugar content. And the way that you test that is you would fill this with sap and you put the hydrometer in there.
Yes.
It's got a lead weight here, so it would sink. But the more sugar that's in there, it would float. And these numbers here tell you the percentage of sugar content.
Okay.
So if it floats up, like right now, it's like between 1.5 to 2% sugar content. So not the best. 6 is the best you'll get around
6
here.
is the best.
Yeah. The first run is always the best. But then to turn the sap into syrup, you have to boil the water off of it.
Yes.
Evaporate. You want to get it down to 66% sugar content. And as it boils, that's when it gets the color. The sugar takes the heat and it caramelizes. You get the color. The longer it boils, the darker it gets.
Okay.
And when it's done, before you can sell it, you're supposed to grade it. And the grading scale is Vermont Fancy is the best that you can get, and then grade A, medium, amber, then grade A, dark amber, and then grade B, which is not used as table syrup, it's used for baking and stuff.
Oh.
Wisconsin, you get these two. Very seldom this one. This one comes out off the East Coast.
East Coast. So the lighter the color,
Yeah.
better.
The
it
better.
is.
Oh, the lighter the better. I thought it
Yeah.
was
The higher
the
the
darker
power.
the better.
It
Okay.
costs you get more money for the lighter.
For the
one?
lighter?
Oh.
But isn't it true if you have more sugar, it will caramelize more and give
no,
you
it
the color?
depends. No,
No.
It's darker, it boils longer.
Oh.
And less sugar, that's when it gets dark.
Oh,
It takes longer to boil.
it takes away the sugar. Correct. Okay. That was good stuff to know.
And like this here is made here. This was the first batch I made this year, and this was the last batch last year. As you can tell, the color difference.
Yes.
A little bit. Not a lot
Yeah.
of change, but
There
And
is
this
a
one-
difference, right?
here is called I don't even know what it is. Sugar sand,
Oh.
and that comes if you filtered enough, it would come out of there. But normally there's not this much in a jar this size. There's like a couple of gallons worth. They just put it in one jar so you can see it.
Wow.
Oh,
Normally you wouldn't be able to see it in there.
okay. Interesting.
This one here is when you get cooked too far past the 66% sugar content, you get rock. It's sugar rock.
Wow.
It forms when there's a
See, just like moon rock, this is the sugar rock. Maple
forms.
sugar rock.
Yes, I see.
forms when there's not enough water for the sugar to stick to. And then these here are the boughten kinds. These two don't have any real maple syrup. It's all corn syrup.
Yeah, that's fake.
And this one here has got 2% of real maple syrup.
So when they say it's original, that just has 2%.
Yeah, this
So that's
one
really
has
not
2%.
like real.
Oh God.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unless you know this process, you wouldn't really know what's real and what's
you
not
wouldn't.
real.
No.
Right.
A Chippewa tribe that discovered maple syrup. Specifically Waxus, who was a great hunter in his village. One warm late winter day, he went hunting to get fresh meat because everybody in the village was tired of the dried venison they'd been eating all winter long. Waxus hunted all day, but with no success. When he returned to the village, he was so frustrated and angry that he threw his tomahawk into a tree, a maple tree. The sap started to drip out. It just so happened that Waxus's wife kept some birch baskets underneath the tree. And it kind of looked like this.
I like it.
Yeah, aren't they pretty?
Oh, pretty.
Whoa.
Yeah. And the sap ran down the tomahawk's handles and into the birch baskets. And later that afternoon, when his wife came to collect water from the stream using the baskets, she found that what she thought was water was already, in the basket.
Yes.
And she's like, great, I don't need to go down to the stream to get water. I can just use this. And when she went home, she cooked an old venison stew. And it was the best stew ever. It was sweet and tasty and delicious. And she had accidentally discovered how to make maple syrup. It wasn't water, it was sap. So, as you learned about at the other stations, Native Americans didn't do it that way. They just slashed the tree and then they put a stick at the end of the gash and the sap would run down off the stick and into their containers. So, I will show you a little demonstration. Get my wet glove because the fire is really hot. And we're gonna count. And we're gonna see how quickly this one burns. We're gonna pretend it's our birch basket, okay? And I'll set it right there. Ready? 1,
Let's count.
2, 3,
Louder.
4, 5, 6,
Oh.
7, and it burns.
Oh.
Wow.
So, when they make maple syrup in their birch baskets, it's full of sap, right? Yeah. So, what do you think's gonna happen? I'm gonna put it right here.
Okay, we gotta count again.
We'll count again. See, 1,
2,
3,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's not burning.
It's not burning.
It's because wet wood does not burn. So when there's sap or water in there, it won't burn the container because it's wet and moisture. And that's how they boiled maple syrup in there.
Wow.
Yeah. But they
Interesting.
didn't make it for maple syrup though.
No.
They made it for this. Sugar.
Sugar.
They took
made
the
maple
process
sugar.
all the way down until all the liquid was out of it. And they got the crystallized sugar.
Okay.
Because it's more portable. More portable.
correct.
It lasted longer.
Lasted longer.
You know, they could stick it in a bag and carry it around. Maple syrup's a little harder to do that with.
Wow.
Correct.
You want to try some sugar?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Let's check it if it tastes just like regular sugar.
It's similar to brown sugar. Eat your tongue. There you go. You want to try some?
We will share. Thank you. Let's see.
Is it good? Yeah. Yeah.
Can I have some? Or do you want to finish it? Wow, okay. You want to finish it?
It's delicious. Way better. It's sweet. Doesn't have that bitter aftertaste. It's sweet through and through.
Mapley and I like
Yeah.
it better than the syrup.
Oh yeah. Well.
You don't get this in a grocery store.
Yeah, I've never seen it before.
Over here in the bucket, that bin is filled to the brim with 100 gallons of sap. Then it comes down, it's gravity fed through that tube. Under the other side, there's a bucket like this on the other end. It's just a little higher. There's a float inside of there, and it regulates how much sap goes into here. This takes about 40 gallons of sap altogether. We have to kind of keep that regulated so the boil keeps constant, and so the bottom doesn't burn either. So inside these, on the other side, there's a float. Like I said, it tells how much sap comes in. And if we look inside here, it's 2 sections. And then your more raw sap is towards the back.
Okay.
And as the sugar content gets higher, it moves forward. And then as it comes forward, as the sugar content gets higher, it comes into here. And this is another float. Tells how much sugar this regulates the sugar content. And when we get to a certain height, that float here will open up like a door, and it'll come into this pan here. This is our syrup pan. We keep this stacked full of wood. So it's a wood burner stove, and then you get more your sap or sugar. Let's see, syrup. That's the S word I'm looking for. Okay, it comes in here. We're boiling off. We're trying to boil off about 98% water right now because we're only getting 2% sugar out of the trees with the weather the way it is. So 98% of the water we want to boil off, and then it will come into here, and we try to get this temperature to be about 219 degrees Fahrenheit.
God, that's hot.
Very hot.
Very hot.
And sometimes this little digital thermometer doesn't work, so we use this. This is the hydrometer, and we'll fill this up with the sap or the syrup. And if this floats up, the red one, the top red one, it needs to float and come level with the syrup. It's ready to be filtered. So after that, we'll fill up these milk jugs, the metal milk jugs, with the syrup. Bring it over to this process. This is our newer one. They used to have to take these down to the center, and then they would heat it up and filter it down there. But they got this new system here. Kind of works like a double boiler. So there's water down in here, and we heat it with the propane, and then that boils here. And then we have the filtering, which we would dump the syrup into here, and this will filter out all your impurities or that sugar sand.
Sugar sand.
Yeah. So you don't have any of your good floaties in your syrup, you know, because not a lot of people want to eat that.
And is that sweet too?
Yep, that's just as sweet.
So what do you do with
You
that?
can't really, I don't think you can use it for anything, but it doesn't hurt you to eat it. But it's also, you know, it's just like kind of eating sand. It's the grittiness of it and stuff like that.
So that's different than the sugar of
Yes.
it. So it's different.
Totally different. Yep.
Okay.
This is the stuff that they filter out so you don't have to like chew your syrup. Pretty much. And we put about 5 of the smaller ones in, and then we have a bigger one on the bottom. So it gets really extra filtered.
Oh wow.
And then it'll all drip down, and then we'll heat this syrup in here up to about 180. And it's not for any boiling purposes, pretty much it's just for the canning purposes. Because once you put the hot 180 degree syrup in the can, then you can get that tight seal. And that's
Safe,
what we got
correct.
this morning, is the 9.
That's the finished product.
Yep, that's your finished stuff.
Wow.
What she had over there for the candy or the sugar, if you kept boiling and just kept boiling, it would start crystallizing about 245 degrees. And then you can start getting your Yep.
You got the fire too far back, that's why this isn't boiling quite as much as too far back here.
Delicious.
Very good.
It's way better than maple syrup. Way better.
I don't know. And if you do,
I was
it might be
pleasantly
a lot.
surprised with the taste of it. The
Yeah.
flavor is just, my God, unbeatable. Loved
Yeah,
it.
and it just melts.
It smells.
You know,
And there is no
And it's,
aftertaste.
yeah, there's no
Yep.
bitterness to it.
because
Like,
once you start getting to that level, you're boiling off pretty much all of the water at that point.
Right.
When you still have syrup, you still have a little bit of water,
Yeah.
but not
You said you didn't-
as.
That's because you had to put the draft away over.
Right.
You don't have a lot to where it'll separate.
But, yeah,
It still is a liquid.
it's not that critical, I don't know, I just do it so much. She's good here.
All the water, and that'll turn it into the sugar.
Sugar.
And when we tried it here earlier this week, she gave us some. And I tried it, I'm like, can I have some more, please? Because that was very good. I really enjoyed it. So,
Awesome.
Well,
Well,
Yeah,
thank
and
you for
I'm
all
not
the
sure.
information.
yeah, no problem.
Look at that color.
I like your. Oh, thank you. Take your own.
Perfect.
But Rudy's wife lived there?
Wow, that's the real stuff.
Wow, that's the real deal. Yeah, take some more.
Wow, that's great.
This looks so lovely and delicious.
Well, I see a few of them coming. Molly May is.
Thank you. It's delicious. Wow, look at the maple syrup. This is the real deal. Not store-bought.
Yeah, one.